I want to start by thanking everybody for joining us today for our first Engineering Excellence Award Best Practices webinar. We're excited to be here today with you and offer you helpful information in order to submit your 2020 Engineering Excellence Award projects as well as future projects. I want to start by thanking our moderators. So today we have Kathy Bass from ACEC Associates, Inc., Sarah Rosman with Karpinski Engineering, Tracy Hernandez with DGL Consulting Engineers, Jocelyn Hollis with Trans Systems, and later on the call we'll have Steve Shepard with Hopkins Printing. So today's agenda, we're just going to cover kind of identifying what projects you might want to submit, what does it take to submit a project, and how much time will it take you, what project should you submit. I'll do a brief overview of our online portal and signature gathering process. We will cover judging criteria, go over helpful tips and tricks, and this year ACEC Ohio is offering for the first time a discounted rate for your foam board, so we'll have Steve Shepard on the line to go over that as well. So some important dates to remember. November 4th, 2019 is the deadline for submission for projects. Projects must have been completed between November 1st, 2017 and October 31st, 2019. November 14th of this year will be the judging of the entries, and March 12th of next year will be our Engineering Excellence Awards luncheon at the Bridgewater Banquet Center, which is the same spot that we had it last year. Okay, so I'm just going to start by saying that we're going to have each agenda topic, and then I'll do a Q&A related to that topic, and then at the very end, we'll open it up for a general Q&A. So I'm going to kick it off with sending it over to Kathy.
Okay, thank you, Haley, for inviting me to participate in the webinar. For 4 years in a row now, KS Associates has participated in this awards program, and we found it to be very beneficial, not only for our own company recognition, but also for building client relations. And from that experience, I can tell you all that prior planning is key. It may be too late for this year, but for next and future years, my advice would be to review the program at the beginning of the year and identify projects that would be candidates for an award. And you'll want to do this for a couple of reasons. First, of course, early planning allows you to document and record things that you'll want to highlight down the road, including building a nice library of photos. So when it comes time to sit down and write your 6-page description, you'll have a lot of good notes to pull from versus starting with a blank slate. Also, having an outline with some substance will be appreciated by your technical team. So early planning in some ways takes the burden off of project managers and technical staff who we know are crazy busy and can sometimes be reluctant to take on yet another marketing task. Secondly, engaging your client early on sort of sets the tone for the project. If you think highly of the project, enough so that you want it to win an award, that can subtly communicate your perceived value of the project to your client as the project progresses. So this is also a good time to reassure the client that you'll be doing the heavy lifting in terms of preparing the submittal, which will take the burden off the client and may make it easier to obtain client approval for the submission. So you want to get buy-in early on. And finally, if you plan early, you'll have enough time to allow the client to review the submission in its entirety if you decide to take that route. And as the client reviews the submission, they'll be reminded of how phenomenally well your engineering team performed on the project, and of course, they'll want to hire you again for more work. So hopefully that advice will give you some food for thought. Does anybody have any comments or questions about early planning?
Does anyone on the line have any questions for Kathy? All right, I think we'll go ahead. Thank you so much, Kathy. I think we'll go ahead and send it over to Tracy and Sarah.
Tracy, do you want to go first, or do you want me to start?
I can certainly go first if that's all right with you, Sarah.
Go for it.
So essentially, I was going to talk about how much time it has taken our firm in the past, and we actually track our different initiatives, events, awards through a proposal number tracking process, or a project number. So I did some digging and broke it down so I could pull out the appropriate information for preparation. So at DGL, we typically handle everything with regard to the photo shoots, image editing. We do our own graphic designs of the boards and all those things. So we typically do not sub anything out for that. So last year, we submitted an award for the City of Oregon, and with regard to research of the project, ensuring that what changes had occurred between the proposal stage and the actual project stage. So researching that and getting the final documents in our hands, and then drafting and finalizing content, we were around 40 to 45 hours. So, which is for us like a typical statement of qualification package, I guess, if you will, for I would say like a new client. With regard to the board creation, we had 6 hours in total, and that was communicating with our printer as well. We logged all of those hours. So I think obviously we don't set aside a week and say this is the only project we're working on at a time. We all know better than that. But so we typically spread that out over the course of a month and a half or 2 months. And on the next topic, I'm supposed to discuss the signature gathering process, but with regard to timing, I will say that we provide our clients some content suggestions for their letter. A lot of times it's easier to get a response if you provide them a draft of the letter. And we typically send that out a month before the due date so that we get that back in plenty of time. So a 3 to 4 week cushion, if you will, for that.
Tracy, I love that you guys track specific projects like this. We track time for public relations and related effort, but it's all one number. It's not a separate project. But that 40 hours sounds about right to me. I've done Karpinski Engineering's award submission for the past, I think, 5 years. Sometimes we submit 1, sometimes we've submitted 3. So it can get a little bit crazy, as you can imagine, because when you have different owners, different technical staff, there's a lot of pieces, parts. I could treat it like a proposal, you know, in terms of time, in terms of approach. You know, I know my team, so I know where the hangups are going to be. I know who's super helpful. I know how to, you know, and then I think that mentality helps me navigate through. You know, I was reminded of a quote by Josh Wolf, who's I think he's a venture capitalist, and he said, "Failure comes from a failure to imagine failure." And I think whether it's a proposal or an award submission, that's, you know, we all know how many pieces, parts we have to put together for this. Like Tracy, we do everything in-house. So we do our board in-house. We have an in-house photographer who, you know, also does our graphic design. Everything's happening in-house, which is nice. Takes a lot of coordination. Obviously, we have the board printed. Like Tracy was saying, for our owner's letter, we ghostwrite that letter, so they don't have to do anything but stick it on their letterhead and give it a signature. My philosophy is, how much heavy lifting can I do for people who might not really have time for me? And rarely, I don't know if any of those letters have ever come back with any changes. So I really just think about it, and I talk to the PMs and I say, okay, what was great about this project? What would we want the owner to say about it? Let's write it and move on. And that's proven helpful. We actually submit ours as early as possible. So as part of our getting the owners okay, we send them the letter at the same time, so that it's just one ask and then we're done and we move on. And that's proven helpful so that, again, you know, we don't get to the end of the line and go, we don't have signatures. Oh, crap, how quickly can we get to them, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of, I want to address what projects should you submit, I really have scrutinized the scoring criteria over the years. You know, there's 5 categories that you're getting judged in. And, you know, for us, sometimes it's really obvious. You know, we did one project that was the Cleveland Museum of Art, massive project, 10-year project, you know, this world-class building. That was clear. We should submit that one. And we did. You know, other times it's like, well, we have a few options. Cost-benefit analysis, which one do we go with? And I go through I did it this year. I went through the scoring criteria and I went, okay, what do I know about these projects? Kind of where do I think they're going to do best? Because it's a time investment for us and a financial investment to enter the award. So if we can only enter one, if that's all we have time for, I really scrutinize it and go, okay, what do I think will be easiest to convey to the judges? I want to remind people there's that small projects category, and I have a niggling sense that that's probably an underused category, at least in our state. I don't feel like over the years I've seen a ton in that category. And then, you know, we're an MEP engineer. That's a pretty underrepresented category as well. So I'm not entirely sure who all we have on the phone, but, you know, every year when I go to the awards or see who's won, I see lots and lots of civil and structural projects. But on the MEP built environment side, you don't see as much. So I think there's a really good opportunity there for MEP firms to showcase their work, because I know there's tons of them in the state of Ohio who are doing amazing things, and I don't see them submitting for awards, which is kind of a shame because it is a nice thing to be able to show to your client. You know, our clients do appreciate it. They love getting, you know, they get their, you know, we buy them a plaque as well, and or the Crystal, you know, award, and we'll often invite them to the luncheon. So it's a, you know, good business development opportunity, and depending on the client, not something that comes their way very often if they're not a repeat builder. So I think those are all the things I wanted to cover in terms of picking projects and getting set up to be successful.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that for us, you know, we're in the same boat with regard to some are very clear winners in our offices to say, okay, this one we absolutely have to submit for an award. You're just more confident. Some are just really apparent. But a lot of times we will, and not necessarily press releases from a DGL perspective, but if a project has or currently has a lot of press about it, it typically is something that we'll try to flag to say, okay, all right, so this is exciting from the public perspective, from the community's perspective, and that's always a nice angle to, I would say, complement the technical expertise. But in my opinion, with the outstanding award that we won, it had a lot to do with you know, the safety improvements and the impacts on the community, and a lot of the press that was out there. It made my job very easy, composing that content to make it compelling while still technical. So
yeah, that's a great point.
Does anyone have questions for Sarah or Tracy? All right, Tracy, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, I stopped mine, and then Tracy will continue on with number 3 on the agenda.
all right, can everybody see the ACEC webpage? Yes. Okay, great.
Yep.
Just making sure. Okay, so I was just going to do a quick overview of the online portal, but I thought it would be helpful to show you where it's located. So when you log into the home page, and you select events and programs, it is the second category down, Engineering Excellence Awards. So this gives a great description. This information is included in the pack that is also sent out hard copy, but we want to select the 2020 ACEC Ohio official electronic entry portal. And I didn't save anything that I did before, so we have add a new entry is what. And something it did remember, so when you first get to the screen, it asks you for your email address, and don't be concerned about that. It's just a way to remember you. You don't have to have a password to enter anything. So with regard to the project information, it's pretty straightforward. In our offices, what I typically do is I will compose everything in one Word document, and you know, if it's a collaboration, if there's more than one firm, you know, getting the client owner, the actual name is important, you know, all of those types of things. And I literally copy out of the Word document and paste into ACEC. Although when I was running through this the other day, I did get spell check within, which is a great thing. But I never trust an online portal, and I want to provide the most professional submittal that I can for the firm. One of the things that was interesting for us, so with regard to finding the state representative and the senator names, I thought it might be helpful. It was interesting to me, so I know who they are, where I live and where I work, but the projects that we nominate aren't necessarily in those areas. So I was digging through some of my resources from last year, and I assume you'll be able to see this. So, and I will provide Haley with these links, but it's very easy. If you don't know, you can go to the ohiosenate.gov page, and all you have to do is type in the zip code of the project, but you do need the 4 numbers to give it to be accurate. Some of the boundaries are really odd in the state of Ohio. I'm not exactly sure how that comes to be, but I'll also provide her, it's the USPS.com website, and you literally can put in the address, city, state, and then it will give you that 4-digit extension. And then the Ohio House of Representatives, it does the exact same thing. So you can just fill in your address of the project site, project location, hit search, and it will bring up the appropriate representative. So that's what these areas are. With regard to construction costs, now I know like the majority of the construction has to be done. Something we ran across last year, filling out this specific form, was we were waiting for the actual numbers to come in. It was not a design build. We didn't have access to that. I would suggest that you alert the contractor that you're doing this as well. In our case, when we were submitting the DDI, they weren't able to attend the event with us. They wanted to purchase their own like crystal award type of thing. So when we told them that we were going to apply for the award or be nominated for the award, they were extremely helpful, but they're so busy during this season that giving them a heads up is really helpful to get those final numbers. But, and as you go through here, you know, we typically utilize our, you know, the project manager and the principal in charge. Depending on how large the project is, we may include some of the other key folks, but it is very, it's very easy to follow. With regard to, I probably should have populated this first, but when you get to the save application section and you click that all is complete, you don't have to, you can save this at any time if you can see this here. once you click this box, that is, it's still not final until you get to the last page. So, but it will remember you as you go through the areas. And then there is a section, let's try to pull this over. All right, I'm sharing the screen. So this was our last year's submittal. It's great because you can actually print from the website and have a final PDF copy for yourself. So essentially, it populates this nice form here. And then as you get into the form and you're getting ready to finalize it, it is going to ask for the signatures, which is one of the bullet items that I have, discussing, or I'm sorry, discuss the signature gathering process. This sign here category, we submitted PDF files with all of the signatures in there for our electronic signature, and the same with our client owner, the owner representative for the city of Oregon. As we've talked about in the past, getting that letter early in, and we literally just submit the name, the date, and then the PDF is attached to that. Please know that last year was our very first year in submitting and utilizing the electronic form, and it was very user-friendly. We love the end result, being able to have, one PDF with the confirmation and everything in there. We didn't even have issues with the size of our photos. I mean, nothing was slow or anything like that. So it is a great online resource, and where we always aim to meet the deadline, and beat the deadline. It is nice that you can go in and make some final edits, just in case some of our project managers may need a little more time to review the project description or the overview, and they may want to tweak something. So it's nice to have that option and just have the flexibility for the online process. So I am going to, well, first, I guess, are there any questions? I could go through this while I have control of the screen.
Hi, this is
a question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Phoebe Peterson. I've done ACEC in a while, but not for Ohio. I have a couple of questions. First of all, since it's digital, can we use a digital signature with permission from the person, or do we have to actually have them sign that form?
So,
like the client and whatnot.
Right. Well, a letter does have to be provided from the client. So
yeah.
For us, it's killed two birds with one stone to have that. I mean, technically, we could have brought our client in and had them, if they were going to be here for another reason, and have them do it that way. I just felt uncomfortable utilizing their signature from that file without their permission.
No, it would be with permission for sure.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, with technology the way that it is now, I mean, you literally could just scan it right out of the letter that they send, again, with their permission, put it into that part, and that's certainly acceptable.
And Tracy, I just want to add, this is Haley with ACEC. I spoke with the developer of the website, and as of right now, there is not a digital option. So submitters do have to print the application and then get the signature, whether that's a real signature or approval to use a photo of their signature embedded in the PDF, and then they can upload it.
Okay, so, right, I guess I took that as inserting the signature as a image. Okay, great, then we're on the same page, right?
Yep.
Haley, I have a question about the difference between filling the form out online and submitting paper. And do the people who are reviewing the submissions have a preference?
I would say the online portal would be our preference.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to stop share.
Okay. And now ACEC Ohio, we're going to discuss judging.
So the judging for the awards is going to take place on November 14th at the ACEC Ohio offices. We have 4 judges that have been doing it for the past couple years, and it's Bill Shelley, Cash Measel, Lyle Flower, and John Link. And all of them have backgrounds in engineering, architecture, and construction, academia, industry, and government. So they get a binder filled with all of the projects broken out into categories a week or so beforehand, and then they come into the office and review all the boards together and kind of discuss what their judging remarks with each other. And then they're basing the judging criteria off of 5 key topics, which is 1, the uniqueness and or innovative application of new or existing techniques, that's 20%. And then the second thing is future value to the engineering profession and perception by the public, that's also 20%. The social, economic, and sustainable design considerations, which is another 20%. The complexity of the project, which is 20%. And then the successful fulfillment of client/owner needs, which is also 20%. So that's the criteria that they're basing it off of, and then that determines who the grand award winner is, and so forth.
Does anyone have any questions related to the judging process? Okay, so this year, for the first time, ACEC Ohio is offering a foam board discount, and the foam board is what is part of the submission process. So we are offering members a discounted rate through Hopkins Printing. So I have Steve Shepard on the line with Hopkins, who is going to walk you through that process.
Hi, Haley. Yeah, my name is Steve Shepard with Hopkins Printing, located here in Columbus, and I've discussed with Haley a couple of options that can be utilized for the board. We have quoted a Gator foam and a Gator plast. The difference being Gator plast has a plastic face, whereas the Gator foam is more of a paper on the face of the board itself. And either one would look great with your projects. What we'll have to do, if anybody is interested in utilizing our service, we will need to establish each of you as a separate account. Haley and ACEC have kind of coordinated this, but we would set up each as a separate account. There would be a short new account form that we would send out. And then in so doing, we would request that you would send us your art files. InDesign graphics or InDesign is what we typically use. In native files would be best. Ideally, they would be print ready. If there would be any revisions required, that may require some additional design charges, but if they are absolutely print ready, then we will provide PDFs to you to review, and then we would print the piece. Haley, again, what's the timeline on when these are due?
So the deadline is November 4th for everything.
November 4th, okay. And for our purposes, we'd love to have about 10 business days, if possible, to work on the projects. Don't know if that's a challenge for anybody, but that's just to make sure we would get it right. And then if there are multiple locations and members that are utilizing our service, if there is any way that we could maybe know that in advance, and then we would do the layouts and try to do our best to run the jobs at the same time, but if that's not possible, we can do each job individually. So each of the pieces, either the gator foam or the gator plast, is 3/16 of an inch thick, and then we would be putting a 050 laminate on both sides of the piece, and that gets you to 0.475 inches, which is within the specifications of the entry.
Great. And Steve, I just want to add one thing. The foam core board is $87, and the gator plast board is $133 with the discounted rate.
Correct.
Does anybody have questions for Steve on the printing process?
I have a quick question. We happen to be coming down from Cleveland to Columbus for the OTEC show, and we put together a production schedule, and I was hoping that I could actually see a physical printout of the piece before it was finalized. And how do you feel about that?
Certainly we could do that. Now, an actual printout of the piece would be essentially a production of the piece. So basically that would require the cost of purchasing one in advance. And then if there were to be any changes, we would produce a second one. But I would certainly be happy to show you samples of other materials or things that we have done prior, but if you need to see your actual piece in advance, we certainly can do that for you.
Okay, and I mean, do you really think it's necessary
to see an actual piece in advance?
Yeah.
I don't. This is not something unusual for us. We have an entire signs and graphics department that we work on these materials on a daily basis. We'd welcome you to come see our facility, take a quick tour, and we could show you other similar projects that we've done so you can get a feel for kind of what they look like on the various different surfaces.
Okay. I'll have to think about that because our production schedule says that we would upload artwork to the printer on the 25th, which is actually not 10 days out.
Yeah, that's
I'll have to back that up.
Yeah, I think when Haley and I talked about it, I mean, that would probably be as tight as I'd want to go. I was hoping to build in maybe a couple extra days, depending on the kind of the numbers that we might be dealing with in total
Okay.
project. But I mean, if necessary, and in speaking to Haley, I said that would be, that would work if that was the deadline. We can make it happen.
Steve, this
Okay.
is Tracy Hernandez. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy, are you done?
Yep, I'm all done.
Okay. I'm like, whoops. Well, I started talking with my mute button on like I usually do. But Steve, for those firms who don't have graphic designers in-house, is that something, I guess I didn't think about that prior. Is that something that your company offers or may have availability to assist with?
Yes, we do. We've got a team of graphic designers that could assist with the project if that's something the members would need. Now that would, we do have an hourly charge for our design team.
Sure. I mean, just as an option, I guess, 3 years ago, we had to use people, we were lucky enough to get somebody with that talent. But not a lot of firms have graphic designers, so.
Gotcha. Yeah, we definitely can assist. There again, with timing, it would depend on the complexity of what your board will look like, and then that would probably require some additional lead time for us, definitely.
This is Sarah Rosamond. Another question, Steve, for you. In terms of delivery, I just want to confirm, as long as we have our art to you and approved in a timely fashion, you guys will be taking care of delivering all the boards to ACEC?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
If someone would need the board delivered to them outside of Columbus, we would probably use UPS to ship it out. And that would be in addition to the charge. But all the boards we would deliver at no additional charge to ACEC.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah? Sarah?
Hello?
Oh,
Yeah.
I just have a question. This is Judy Donato from Manikin Smith Group. I'm just curious as to what type of software most people use in designing their panels. We usually use InDesign, but I'm just curious as to if someone else uses a different type of software or what they use.
Well, I know that our in-house graphic designer uses InDesign. I mean, she'll use Photoshop for any photo editing of it, and possibly Illustrator, doing anything custom, but the bulk of the design is in InDesign.
I could actually provide Haley with a list of other software that we can accommodate, if that's helpful.
Yeah, Steve, that'd be great.
Okay.
Any other questions for Steve?
I think you sent out my contact information, Haley, is that correct?
Yes.
So everybody should have that?
And I'd be happy to send it out to anyone that wants it as well. It's also on page 7 of our call for entries in a box. It has our rates and Steve's information.
Okay, great. Well, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email, and then we can communicate about each individual project.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, you're very welcome. Thanks. Bye now.
All right, I apologize. I skipped over a couple tips and tricks from Jocelyn at Trans Systems. So Jocelyn, if you want to go ahead.
Sure, thank you. This is Jocelyn Haller, and I'm a Senior Business Development Coordinator here at Trans Systems. Jill Black is our Assistant Vice President of Communications and Marketing, but unfortunately had a conflict and couldn't join today's call. She handles all of our ACEC EEA submittals across the country, but at my previous firm, I worked on them for 12 years. So together, the two of us kind of brainstormed the following helpful tips and tricks when working on your project description and your executive summary. So just kind of reiterating what Kathy and others said, start early. Here in Ohio, the entries are due in early November, which in the civil world means right after OTEC. But the call for entries is open in August. So once your company identifies a potential project or projects, it's often helpful to review the information you already have and see what needs work. A 6-page project description is a lot of space to work with. So just make sure you allow enough time for any client approvals, reviews, locating photography, getting necessary signatures, etc. So here at Trans Systems, we have found it helpful in the past to put together an internal timeline with due dates, just to kind of help all those involved in the submittal stay on task. Another thing we do is we start with an outline of the submittal to help frame your answers. Within this outline, you want to make sure that you keep in mind the judging criteria when developing your executive summary and project description to make sure that you hit on all 5 points. Also, in addition to the judging criteria, don't forget to double check that you're adhering to the page limits and the formatting requirements for both the summary and description, the 1 page versus the 6 pages. Oftentimes, with all the other proposal deadlines we have going on, it's easy to mistake page limits, so just make sure you know what's expected for this submittal. And we all know that engineers are very technical people and not the best writers, so if there are gaps in your project description, we have found it helpful if you look for news articles on the project or if you interview the project team or the client to get more info. And with this being said, just keep in mind the end user and the community impact in all sections of the submittal. Treat it like this is more their award than it is ours. Also, try to quantify time savings and cost savings wherever possible. Clients appreciate when we save them time and money, so you just want to make sure you highlight that in the description. And get creative with your project description. Add pictures to help illustrate a point, or add a call-out box or a quote from the client or community member. any kind of graphics, make it a little more visual appealing to the reader and the judges. So with all this being said, just make sure you leave enough time to work on the display panel. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces, so you want to just treat the display panel as an advertisement, call out the main benefits of the project, minimize heavy blocks of text, use large photos or graphics if possible to help create an impression for the judges. And that's all I got.
Does anyone have questions?
And then there's two examples right now on your screen. You can see, Jocelyn, I think that you wanted to share these. Can you see on your screen, this is the one for trans systems that was submitted last year, I believe.
Actually, the Alki Road widening, I think we submitted that a few years ago, but it did win an Engineering Excellence Award. So I just kind of wanted to give everyone a visual to see how we laid this out. The one we submitted last year was the Easton Transit Center, and it won an honor award. But just again, another idea of a different layout for the panels.
We have the one submitted last year on all of your screen right now. You can see the layout.
At this time, I'd like to open it up to anyone that has questions for any of our moderators.
I have a question about the Easton Transit Center Board. You guys chose to use only 3 pictures, although you can place up to 6 in the display, and I was wondering, was that by design or just because those were what you had available?
It was more or less by design. We were just trying, that top image is a little bit of a broader image, so we just chose to use 3 as opposed to the 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And no under construction photos?
We did not. I'd have to review the requirements for last year, but no, we did not include any construction photos for this one.
Okay, I was just curious why, but maybe it's obvious because they're not as nice as these 3, you know, but okay.
Hi, this is Phoebe again. I have a question about the online submittal process. When you log in, since you don't have like a password, can other people in your firm also look at the same entry and make edits, or is it just one person?
They can with the same email address. So Phoebe, let's say yours is, you know, Phoebe.Peterson or Phoebe@Peterson.com. If one of the owners or somebody else on your team used that email address to log in, that would be.
And they can use it? Okay, awesome. Great, thank you.
With regard to the website, so I'm a huge fan of the new website the ACEC Ohio has. So there are, I don't know if this is anyone's first time submitting, but there are pictures from the 2018 and the 2019 awards where you can see pictures of the display boards. You know, some of the photos from 18 I thought really captured the boards well, and just an artsier feel to some of them. And in 19, they took some more artsier visuals of those pictures too. So it's not, I mean, I guess for inspiration pieces or examples, I know when I first started doing awards, it was completely by the book. So I guess, Kathy, this goes back to your comment. You know, we have to submit, I believe it's 6, you know, X amount under construction, X amount, you know, after the project is complete. And I was under the impression that all of those pictures had to be incorporated on my board as well. And then when I read through, it wasn't necessarily the case. So if you look at my progression, I guess, with awards, you can tell they become, I guess, more creative as the years went by, and I got to see some other ones and said, oh, they didn't have 6 pictures and they were a grand award winner, so it must be okay not to include 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a great idea to go through and just take a look. And in my previous life, I submitted a lot of AIA awards, and they have very similar boards that are required, or they did before I started here 6 years ago. So, and they have great examples online too if you just want to. I'm a very visual person, so I like to see different ideas before to try to broaden, you know, my mind. So that might be helpful to those who haven't been through it before or been able to attend.
Are there any other questions before we wrap up? Okay. I just want to announce that our 2019 Engineering Excellence Awards grand winner from last year was Jacobs Engineering for their Dublin Road water treatment capacity increase. And there's also pictures of that are available on our website. I just want to thank everybody so much for attending our webinar today. We hope this was helpful to you as you work through submitting your projects now and in future years. Many of you should have received our call for entries. We sent that out in early August. If you would like a copy of that, feel free to send me an email and I can send it to you, as well as feel free to reach out to us here at ACEC Ohio if you have any other questions related to the Engineering Excellence Awards. And with that, I think we will end the webinar.
Thank you. That's very great.
Thanks, everybody.
Great, thank you.